I too did a deep dive today, and these are some of my favorite things that he said, John Heilemann. This is him explaining the weird label, which stuck like crazy glue onto the Trump-Vance ticket. This is Governor Walz on the podcast Pod Save America.
This weird thing is not an insult. It's an observation. And people saying, well, Governor Walz came up with this. No, people are telling me this. My Republican friends are telling me this. Because when you look at it this way, who's asking for some of this stuff? Who's asking for health care to be taken away? Who's asking for birth control to be taken away? Who's asking? You picture some guys, they always do the guy's sitting in Racine, Wisconsin in the bar, what's really concerning them? I damn sure guarantee you it's not banning Animal Farm. They're talking about, God, it's too damn expensive to pay for child care, or I'd like to do this. So I think the thing is that this spell, and you listen to him, there's nothing there. And it opens up a huge space if you can shrink the message, and then really start to focus on it. I want people to be very clear. I'm not talking about Republicans being weird. I'm talking about that dude. Just my point on this, he's making fun of Kamala Harris laughing. I got a bet out there, and he'll never collect on it. He will not laugh in public. He's incapable of it. And that's just strange.
I think people were hungry to see Trump brought down to size. I think we, and I mean the collective we, right? The pro-democracy coalition, which is the Democratic Party and all the stray cats and dogs like myself who have gone on to it in hopes of Trump not serving a second term, have in our fear of what he's saying out loud, which is certainly legitimate. It is the Project 2025 agenda. It is turning DOJ into a personal political police force. It is taking the Supreme Court's newfound total immunity for official acts and doing unthinkable things. I mean, since that decision, no one has talked about what Joe Biden or potential President Kamala Harris would do with absolute immunity. No one. Everyone. Single story, not in this news organization, not at Fox News. No one's worried about what Joe Biden would do with absolute immunity. It's what Trump would do because of what Trump tried to do in his first presidency. But Walz has a totally different frame around Trump, and it's to, in his words, quote, shrink him. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think, you have to, anybody who wonders whether this guy is going to be a good candidate on the national stage, he's just run a campaign. I mean, he ran a campaign for this office, and I say that with admiration. Claire McCaskill just said, how many people do you think in Democratic politics Claire McCaskill would say, I've never really heard of that guy a couple weeks ago? And he has a very significant resume. We've seen it now, what his resume is, both in and out of government. Six-term member of the House, governor of Minnesota. I'm not demeaning it to say that he had not broken through. People knew who Josh Shapiro was. People knew who Andy Beshear was. People knew who a lot of these people on the short list were. He was 3 weeks ago unknown to all but maybe the top 0.1% of the political class. People had not, and he came out and did Claire McCaskill's podcast and Pod Save America. He came on this network a lot. He went on CNN. He went all over the place and was campaigned as well for the job of vice president as Kamala Harris has campaigned so far for the job of president since she's been the nominee, flawlessly, So you have to give the guy some credit there. And I will say, that you can't take this out of the context in which it exists, which is the context of a Democratic Party that's just been through hell before Vice President Harris became the nominee. All drama, more drama than you would want, any party would want in 6 election cycles. They had it in 6 weeks, right? Yeah. And you look across the aisle and you see J.D. Vance, not just as a target, but as a cautionary tale. You have been through this in politics, what it is to not pick a do no harm candidate, to pick a candidate who is a wild, bold pick. It turns out that sometimes doesn't work out so well for you. And so in this moment, when Democrats they want a no drama pick. They do not want some outside the box thinking here. We're pretty far outside the box already in terms of how Kamala Harris became the nominee. They wanted they wanted a unity candidate that all wings of the party could agree on. She met that. That's going to keep the enthusiasm high. They understand how important that is. There's not going to. This is any chance there's going to be any upheaval in Chicago now gone. Love fest guaranteed, and they know they can't in 91 days. They don't have much time, right? And to win this election, You have a very short number of news cycles. You got to keep winning news cycles, and you have to keep doing a lot of other things. But you can't have some giant screw up that consumes 10 days of your campaign, because you'll never recover from that. This guarantees that she will not have that. In addition to all of the vernacular you're talking about, where this guy does not read like the Squad. He may be progressive, but he's not. He doesn't read like far left. What he reads as is, he reads this as what Claire said, he reads as a Rotarian, and a funny Rotarian. And that guy you really want to have a guy you really would be really happy to have a cheeseburger with, because he has some really funny things to say about that weirdo Donald Trump.
Funny and accurate. I also think he's
Funny things usually are accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
That's like the truth.
Oh my God, we have to get to the comedian. I think it was the Comedians for Harris Call, where it's not in this block, but stick a pin in that. We're going to get to funny. I want to get to his unapologetic defense of his record. This is an interview with Jake Tapper.
Do you think your record is an asset to the ticket, or would it risk fueling Trump's attacks as you being a big government liberal?
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own health care decisions. And we're a top 5 business state, and we also rank in the top 3 of happiness. Look, they're going to label whatever they're going to label. He's going to roll it out, mispronounce names, to try and make the case. The fact of the matter is, where you see the policies that Vice President Harris was a part of making, Democratic governors across the country executed those policies, and quality of life is higher, the economies are better, all of those things. Educational attainment is better. So, yeah, my kids are going to eat here, and you're going to have a chance to go to college, and you're going to have an opportunity to live where we're working on reducing carbon emissions. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have personal incomes that are higher, and you're going to have health insurance. So if that's where they want to label me, I'm more than happy to take the label.
So he had me at what a monster. I mean, this has been absent for really 8 years in the politics of Trumpism. Like, you want to turn it on me? Oh yes, what a monster I am. Feeding kids, educating them, and oh, by the way, top 5 states in the country for the economy.
There's a lot I'm going to say about this pick, but let me first talk about the Kamala Harris campaign and how smart they were and how shrewd they were in making this choice. Because Tim Walz represents so much of what, as you said, we haven't been hearing in the last several years, certainly coming from the right. And if there's something that you might miss about Joe Biden not being on the ticket, this man has it. Because as Claire talked about somebody that you might want to hug, he has said, it's important to put the glasses on. He has said the way out of all of this is through grace and optimism. What he's talking about there is empathy. That kind of empathy for all Americans, and even in the clip that you played, he's saying, look, it's not just about being far left, it's about making good policy. You can label it anything you want, but the reality is he's saying, I care about children and I care about families, thus free breakfast and lunch. He's about restorative justice and restoring rights to the formerly incarcerated. And by the way, adding on to that, being able to bring college into prisons. He's a social studies teacher, for crying out loud, at a time when folks are trying to ban books and trying to take history out of our K-12 classrooms. So all of these things, all of these components really does stand up really well against the Trump campaign, creating that split screen, creating that juxtaposition at every single turn. And another very quick point. Since 2016, but certainly since 2020, we've talked about permission structures. Donald Trump loves the permission structure, particularly when it comes to African American votes. He puts Amber Rose up there and so on and so forth. What's so great about this pick, and because of the state that Walz represents and the kind of impact he'll have, Donald Trump is running out of permission structures to add to his campaign. Campaigns are additive. He hasn't been able to do that. That's why he sounds the way he does. That's why he's flailing in the way that he is, because there is no additive effect to the J.D. Pick Vance or any other thing that he's said or done. So he's running out of those permission structures to be able to get him into communities. And what this pick does is it seals off more of those avenues and pathways. Brilliant pick, smart pick for the Harris team.